Welcome to Paradigms at paradigms.life, the radio show and podcast that brings you inspiring people with visions of a viable future for life on Earth that includes humans. Hi, I'm Baruch. Welcome to the show. Glad to be here with you. I've got a wonderful guest. She's a singer, composer, and she's just released a CD of a musical suite she composed with 8 movements called Magpie. And she's going to tell us all about it, about the inspiration for it, which is an issue that is often ignored or that people are uncomfortable talking about. But this music is really mythic and poetic and powerful. So let's meet this wonderful guest right now on this episode of Paradigms. Sarah Jerrom, welcome to Paradigms.
Thank you so much for having me, Baruch.
I'm really happy to talk with you. You have done so many amazing musical things, and you're a composer and a player and a singer and an arranger and of complex music. I mean, really, it's quite something. And this new record out, Magpie, is just, well, we'll talk about it. So before we get into that, I just always want to ask a little bit a person's story. What's some of your story? How did you come to this point in your life?
I've always loved to sing ever since I was a kid. I think I came out singing probably. And I grew up in a musical home. I didn't find my way to jazz directly. I kind of dabbled in singer-songwriter stuff as a teen and actually did a year of classical singing at University of Toronto before eventually switching to the jazz program. And then ever since then, it's just kind of been quite a journey. I started writing in 2007 or so. I went to the Banff Center for the Arts jazz program and got really inspired to start composing more seriously.
It's so interesting. I mean, you've brought together something you rarely hear people working with is the fugue, but that's clearly present in this record, and it creates this mental loop that allows us to sort of sink into whatever the theme is that the fugue is embodying. So I was just sort of fascinated by that. But tell me about this music. I mean, it's clearly very inspired by nature, by personal experience.
Okay, so it was all of that. I started writing this out of a need to express some personal things that I had gone through, but I also really wanted to write for large ensemble. So there were two sort of intentions going on at the same time. So I started working on the first movement, and I didn't really know what I was trying to say yet. It was about 2 years after I had gone through some pregnancy loss. I've actually had multiple miscarriages, and it's a very complicated the aftermath can be very complicated psychologically. I came across the term disenfranchised grief. It really resonated with me, and I felt like there was some stigma and taboo around discussing pregnancy loss. And, it is a choice whether you want to talk about it or not, right?
Of course.
And I needed to talk about it in some way. And of course, it had to be through my art. So the first thing that I did when I kind of went through what I went through was a little Google search and tried to look up art that expresses miscarriage. And there wasn't a lot sort of blatantly out there, of course. And this was 2015. Since then, I've noticed a lot of women raising their voices and talking about things since then. So I'm kind of joining my voice with them. But I found a Sylvia Plath poem that was not, and a Frida Kahlo self-portrait of herself in the hospital post-miscarriage. And that was kind of it. So I really I needed to write this. And as it turns out, I had a lot to say, about 86 minutes of music of it. And I also felt like writing it was such a transformative experience. I was able to process a lot of these complicated emotions and pain and transform it into something else. And I just really hope, my greatest hope, my mission with this music was actually writing something that other people would hear and could relate to, so that they know they're not alone.
I'm talking with Sarah Jerrom about her project Magpie. As you can tell, it's very personal. The issue of pregnancy loss is something that is often ignored, but is very potent in many people's lives. Let's hear some music from Magpie now, and then we'll be back with more of my conversation with Sarah Jerrom. We're going to start out with the first track, part 1, The Road, from Magpie by Sarah Jerrom. This is Paradigms at paradigms.life.
She opens up the gate and walks to the road. The dawn is cloudy and there's mist on the hills. There's no one out there, just herself and the land. Into the stillness she goes, and so she runs to where the land meets the sea. Monochrome rollers surging up to where she stands. She leans into the wind catches her. She doesn't know how she feels. Something approaches, small and distant and strange. A gray bird soaring, skimming over the waves. It flies right for her. She stands rooted in place.
That's the first part of Sarah Jerrom's suite, Magpie. That's part 1, The Road. We'll be listening to more of Magpie, but let's get back to my conversation with Sarah Jerrom and learn some more about this project and about Sarah. Pregnancy loss is something that gets swept under the carpet really easily. It does bring up so many complicated emotions. And of course, now everything's politicized. So there's that, which is just, ridiculous. But in my life, as a AMAB, and a person who has close friendships with women, I've known lots of women who had miscarriages and been part of their grief process and watched how, yes, disenfranchised is exactly the right word, how society just doesn't even want to acknowledge the experience of these people and wants to pretend everything about childbirth is just great. And really, a lot of pregnancies result in miscarriage. I think that it's like 25% naturally. And as we create a more and more toxic environment, I think that number's probably gone up.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes, thank you. I agree with all of that. And 1 in 4 pregnancies. It's kind of the number. And I have endometriosis too, which is an infertility disease as well. So, there's a lot of intention to send out to my endo sisters or fellow endo warriors, as we're known as. Yeah.
Kudos to you for having the courage to bring this out in such a public way. I mean, just talking with me about it on the radio, this is not something we hear really hardly ever. So I just want to acknowledge you for being willing to be vulnerable in this way.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, it's a very delicate, talking about this and kind of feeling my way through it because there's no right or wrong way to do it, apparently.
Nope. So how does this come into Magpie? I mean, each of these movements has a nature kind of a thing going on. And obviously we're talking about body, that's nature. I mean, we are nature. Nature is us. But how did this all sort of happen in your mind, in your abstract reasoning?
Well, okay. So when I went to the Banff Center for the Arts in 2018, I took that sketch that I was working on of that first piece for a large ensemble, and I hadn't written a lot of words yet. I kind of had stuck to writing the words and, writing the music, I should say, and letting the story kind of be a little bit more subconscious. And while I was there in the winter, and the birds that I saw were magpies and crows. It was actually really beautiful. There was a big snowstorm on the last day that I was there, and I didn't know if I was going to make it home, honestly. But I could see out of my window like these birds just circling in the snow, and it just really imprinted. And of course, the whole experience of being in Banff National Park, which is so beautiful, inspired the setting that I dived into more in the narrative. So I came home, I had sketched a few more things while I was there, and I kind of wanted to keep going with it. So I knew that there was something there. And then I started working on the lyrics for the first movement, kind of through a stream of consciousness exercise. And I realized at the end that this woman who, she's in a moment of despair. She's kind of left home, and I think, gonna do a despairing deed. So she runs to the ocean, and as she's standing at the shoreline, she can see on the horizon this bird coming towards her, and it flies right for her. She kind of stops and notices this bird coming, and it lands right beside her, and they look into each other's eyes, and she becomes a bird. A magpie. And at the end of that movement, the bird Graybird is the character's name, looks into her eyes again and silently invites her to fly off with her. And they begin this adventure.
That's great. So thus began not began really, but thus deepened your journey with this.
Yes.
And I've lived around magpies and crows, and they are real characters.
Oh, yeah, they are.
We'll be back with more conversation with Sarah Jerrom After we hear another selection from Magpie, this is the second track, Part 2, For Joy. We're listening to Sarah Jerrom and her project Magpie, and we just heard part 2, For Joy. And now here is the next part of my conversation with Sarah Jerrom. You're listening to Paradigms at paradigms.life. Are you going to put this as a written story for people?
I'm hoping to. I am actually, yeah. Like a little short story.
Yeah. Well, so you say now. It might be more than a short story when you get done with it, but that's really wonderful. That would be a wonderful companion for the music, because the music is so, well, it really pulls you in, and it really inspires a sense of wonder about what the music is about. So I'm interested in, you wanted to compose for large ensemble, and here you've got incredible horn section, you're playing the piano, you've got many, many voices, but I'm really interested in the composing and arranging of this actual music, because it's really quite textured and nuanced, and it's just got so much.
Well, thank you. Yeah. So I wanted to add in some infuse the orchestra with 3 classical instruments played by classical musicians. So we have oboe, flute, and French horn. And I added 4 voices as well. So there's actually SATB, so soprano, alto, tenor, bass, amazing vocalists, amazing musicians. And actually Nancy Walker plays piano on the album. Yeah.
Okay. Well, she's really good.
She's amazing. Yeah. All the musicians are so incredible. I was really, really thrilled that they all said yes to this project, because I had them in mind as I was writing it. And I had actually applied for a grant to write the rest of the music after I went to Banff and started on that first movement. And I was successful. And I actually got the news that I received that funding in January 2020.
Perfect timing.
Yeah. So I had already been working on writing the next movements anyway. I was going to do it with or without. It was just going to take me longer. But that really gave me room to stretch out for about a year and just incubate. And I did a lot of research on birds, bird behavior, magpie behavior. Everything became a sort of creative metaphor for the piece, for the story. And I just kind of started to explore writing for large ensemble, which I hadn't, as I said, done before. But I worked with Rick Wilkins. He is a huge Canadian jazz legend, saxophone player and composer and arranger. He's based in Toronto. He wrote for the Boss Brass and CBC Radio and all sorts of stuff. So I worked with him for a little while, and then I worked with Christine Jensen for the majority of writing this suite. Actually, we did work over Zoom throughout the pandemic, and she's incredible. I learned so much from everybody I worked with, but we worked so extensively with each other, and she got me really kind of exploring all sorts of things about line writing and counterpoint and voicings, and it was just a huge, incredibly, what a gift. What a
She's
luxury.
like the Canadian voice person too. You're not the first person I've interviewed who's worked with her who has just incredible things to say about her.
Yes. Yeah, she is. I love her music so much. It's just so gorgeous. It's so deep. And she really actually, she works with characters a lot and narrative. So we would talk about each sort of instrument or section being a character or a little choir. The woodwinds are a choir, and then we have the real choir. So there was a lot of that that went on as well. Yeah, she's amazing. She just won a Juno for Day Moon. Yeah, and I also explored, there was a book published by Dave Ravello called Dave Ravello in Conversation with Bob Brookmeyer, which was published on Artist Share. And there was a level that you could pledge for that was the composer participant level. And in that, you got all these mini lessons that Dave Ravello taught that were lessons that he had worked on with Bob Brookmeyer. So I worked with that book quite a bit and explored a lot of writing exercises that really stretched my ears, stretched my palate. So I don't know, that was kind of...
What's so cool is that you had a vision of something, and then you needed to go learn the tools to bring it to fruition, and so you did.
Yeah.
We'll be back with the final part of my conversation with Sarah Jerrom after we hear another movement from Magpie This is part 4, The White Elk. Part 4, The White Elk, from Magpie by Jerrom. And now here's the final part of my conversation with Sarah. One of the thoughts I had as I was listening was, wow, I would really like to be in a space where this is being performed live.
Yeah, so we had originally a premiere date for October 2020.
So much for that.
Yep, rescheduled 4 times. And it eventually was premiered in Toronto last April 6th, 2023, at the 918 Bathurst in Toronto. It was co-presented by the Music Gallery. And we actually also had 2 live dancers and video projections involved. So I also worked with dramaturge Jeanette Lambermont-Maury. She is an amazing stage director. She has directed at Stratford, and she's teaching at George Brown in Toronto. And we worked on kind of how to adapt this story, this narrative, towards these multidisciplinary components, which was a big juggling act, you know. Where do you want the spotlight to be? Where do you want the audience to be looking? We've got an improvised solo, we've got dance, we've got video projections. It was very busy. So yeah, but it was beautiful. We had a wonderful time.
Is there any record of that event?
Yes, it is on YouTube. It was live streamed.
All right. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Oh, I got to check that out. That is really great. It's out there. People are listening. You had this event. Are you still working with this piece primarily now? Are you on to other things?
Well, we actually do have, it's not quite official yet, it hasn't been announced, but we have 2 Magpie performances this summer. It will be music only, no dance or video projections in this case, but we're doing the Toronto Jazz Festival.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that'll be our official CD release show. And we're playing the Markham Jazz Festival in August, on August 18th.
That's fantastic.
And I really hope to keep making it happen. I'd love to remount it with dance and video again. So.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I'm interested in when you present this piece, how much of the personal story part of it do you share, or you just give them the music and let them go where they go with it?
Like the performers?
The audience. Well, and the performers. Yeah, both.
Yeah. So I did tell the performers some things. I kind of like to work with the iceberg, you know, where some people just see the tip of the iceberg and some people see more. With the audience, I wanted to do like a little talk, but to be completely honest, I wasn't completely up to doing that right before the show. I felt like it might be a little bit too much, and then afterwards there wasn't time. But I kind of would really love to take this into more of an outreach model and work with discussions, opening conversations. I think it'd be really, really powerful.
I think so too. It seems like it would be almost a waste to not use the opportunity of this wonderful music to explore the issues, you know, and to give people, well, the music, you know, music does this for us. It gives us space to feel. So, you know, you open the show by talking about this. There are going to be people sitting in that audience relating to what you said and taking the music in a different way than they would have if they didn't know some of the story, who are going to relate to it very personally. And that just seems like an incredible gift that you're bringing.
I hope so. That's the deepest wish for this, actually. So, yeah.
I love it.
Thank you so much.
I mean, I wanted to talk with you when I read the blurb about what this was about, because I'm always, fascinated by creativity and I love bringing incredible creative stuff to people. But when someone is putting something so personal into it and sharing that with us directly and letting us know this is what this is about for me, I don't know, it touches our common humanity.
Yeah, I feel really strongly that exactly that. And also, it was such an interesting journey to perform this. I felt really like I had stepped through a doorway when I performed it. It was such an emotional release. And now I can talk about it a little bit differently. Before, I actually, one of the themes in this is emotions being trapped in the throat and grief being held in the lungs. The last movement really talks about... well, we use the Magpie death ritual, which magpies are known to observe death rituals and funerals when they spot a deceased magpie. They all gather and cry out for these birds. And I just felt like that I needed to release a lot of sound that I'd been holding in for a long time. And I actually had some vocal, I don't know, like my voice just didn't feel like it was flowing out of me for years because of this. So the last movement, crystallization, we actually do a magpie funeral. And there's this big sense of letting go. I mean, like, I was bawling on the stage openly when we were playing that piece in that moment. And Ernesto Cervini does this gorgeous drum roll into Mike Murley's tenor solo. Oh my gosh, it's just like, now I just feel like that's what happened. So I wish that for anybody else that could possibly have that experience.
You got to experience healing through the creation of this work and the performing of it. And that makes it even that much more powerful for those of us on the receiving end, because it's real. It's not, the word performance is a funny word. A performance can be absolutely real. It sounds like that's where you go with it. It's beautiful, Sarah. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Sarah Jerrom, thank you so much for talking with me and for sharing such vulnerable, personal material in our conversation and in this powerful music. Having a child is such a personal decision, and when you want to and you can't, or it's very difficult, of course, that's very painful emotionally, not to mention the physical changes. And whether you're having a hard time becoming pregnant or sustaining a pregnancy, or whether you're pregnant and don't want to be, these things are so personal. I guess what I'm saying is, let's stop politicizing people's personal medical choices. It's never easy. There are so many difficult decisions involved with whether or not to have a child and how to deal with whether or not one can. I think the best approach is kindness. Can we be kind to people about their personal struggles instead of turning them into front page controversy? Anyway, I think Magpie is brilliant and Sarah is brilliant, and it's powerful stuff. If you'd like to know more about Sarah Jerrom, her earlier music, listen to all of Magpie, which I heartily recommend. Her website is sarahjerrom.com, sarahjerrom.com. Definitely check her out. Her website has videos and music and her performance schedule and contact information if you'd like to take lessons from Sarah. So definitely, thank you, Sarah Jerrom. And if you enjoyed this episode of Paradigms, I hope you'll check out the Paradigms website, paradigms.life, where all the Paradigms episodes are archived. And we're just getting ready to finish our 15th year of episodes. We'll be starting year 16. And at the bottom of the Paradigms page, there's a link to my new audiobook, The Prophet, narrated by Starhawk. I hope you'll check that out as well. I'm going to leave you with music from Magpie, Sarah Jerrom's powerful suite of music. It's part 3, Circling Feathers. And let's let the word for the week be kindness. Let's be kind. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to other people. And maybe especially notice if there are people you might judge or people going through a hard time. And really, let's give them our kindness. All right. Baruch signing off for this episode of Paradigms. We'll be back next time with more inspiring people. Until then, be kind and be well.
just two birds passing through a veil of clouds, feathers softly circling around them, their weightless bodies carried by the thickened air towards the snowy mountain valley. Feathers softly circling around their weightless bodies. Barren branches cradle all the little birds, peeking through their nest lined with love notes. Who will keep them warm and guide them on the wind? Who will show them how to sing? Who will hold them? Love them. Do they learn? Do they know that love The forest is heavy with snow, but there's a path that wanders through the pines, forgotten and overgrown, and the boughs tug at shrouded travelers, and wildlife roams wild in these woods. Moonlight reveals a trail of bird prints in the snow.
The air is close and stifling inside this narrow cave. A sudden feeling takes hold in the darkness.
Though my heart is racing, I cannot make a sound. I'm frozen to the ground. This pain seems endless. Then I feel the touch of a bird beside me. Wait in the darkness, wait in the darkness, be still. The bird softly says beside me, trembling, I can only listen. Open your eyes wide, and you'll see in the
And slowly strange shapes to appear. Faded images tell a story on the cavern walls.
a magpie, a golden crown. A rose hip, a stone in a shell. A secret that she never tells. A passage and a farewell must all be cast into Panaea's well. How can I break this spell? Will love and nurture all the little birds who will show me how to sing. How can you forsake me? Are you so ashamed? My love, I miss you so I can't let go. I can't say goodbye.
You've been listening to Paradigms at paradigms.life.